This is Diminished, a Husky raid map created by myself, Sergeant Avel, the King Whale, and Boinksy. And it's one of the 7 maps in the currently featured Husky raid playlist as a part of the containment event. And it is one of the 7 maps featured in the Husky raid playlist. It's set atop a banished storage facility, and today I've been asked to give an in-depth analysis of Diminished to help all of you master this map. Anyway, without wasting any more of your time, let's jump straight in. First things first, you're going to notice as soon as you spawn in that you have 3 options. You can either go straight down the middle or take the left or right stairways. And each one of these present their own advantages and also challenges. Taking the center route can get you into combat much quicker, however you also run the risk of dying immediately, which puts your team down a player. As long as you slide jump, you'll basically end up in the center of the map almost immediately, but do proceed with caution. As for the side stairways, these work if you want to maybe take a bit more of a stealthy approach, or at least as stealthy as you can get in Husky raid. The stairways provide a nice bit of cover, and you're also out of the enemy's line of sight temporarily until they walk past them. If you do spawn with something like a sword or a grav hammer, these can be great for actually defending your flag. But they also present an advantage when pushing towards the enemy, as they can't really see you approach unless they're already stood in those corners. And as long as you're crouch walking, you won't even show up on the radar. Do note though, as they are quite narrow, you are very vulnerable to explosives. It's only going to take a couple of well placed grenades, cinder shots, rockets, whatever, and you are done for. As for the centre of the map, when creating it we ensured there was still a little bit of cover, both from bullets and from the enemy's line of sight. Although not a major amount by any means, these can be very useful for getting the jump on your opponents. Again, utilising melee weapons such as the sword or hammer can be very efficient here, but only if you haven't already been spotted by an enemy player. While we're currently looking at the centre of the map, you might notice the lava that is flowing underneath you, and there is also these little holes that lead to a pit of death at both sides. These are there so players can actually repulse each other into these holes, gaining a pretty easy kill. However, make sure to line your repulsor correctly, usually aiming slightly upwards, otherwise the opponents won't fall into the pit and just end up hitting the barrier. But if you can line them up correctly, you are just one step closer to mastering Diminished. You'll notice the map itself is extremely narrow. This means weapons like the Ravager can prove much more useful on here than they might on other maps. Specifically when talking about the charge shot. If you see enemy players on the centre or in the stairwells, there's not exactly much option for movement, so if you use the charge shot correctly, you're going to be able to take down their shields very easily, setting yourself or your teammates up for some easy kills. One final tip for Diminished is making sure you use equipment correctly. Some of the bars upon the rooftop can actually be grappled from, so when carrying the flag, you can get to the other side with a lot of speed. As long as you've taken out the enemy players first, you'll cap that flag in no time. And there are my tips for mastering Diminished. If any of you have discovered anything else about the map that might be useful information, make sure to share it in the comments with your fellow Spartans. Now that Diminished has been in matchmaking for a few days, I am curious to hear what you all think and if you have any feedback. I'm still not overseeing the map in matchmaking, it is absolutely crazy, so I just wanted to thank you all again. The positive reception has been immense. But anyway, with all that out of the way, thank you all for watching, and I'll catch you all in the next one.